And thinks she's talking about the Power Rangers stuff. We get some character development between Claire and Udana and how she wants to keep her around despite her basically being a walking disaster area. However, Claire asks the million-dollar question.
You are not someone I would ever give up on.
And I appreciate that. But just for reference, so when I become a powerful sorceress, I'll know. Why is it that we're giving up on Nick?
Udana takes it to heart and visits him.
Nick, there's a reason why you're here. At this place. At this time. Don't run away from it.
Nick refuses, thinking he's not cut out for the magic thing, but Udana says he was chosen to lead the Rangers because he was the first one to volunteer to help the old man. The other Rangers run off to face a disturbance in the woods, and Udana leaves Nick to contemplate what she said. The Rangers emerge in the forest and are now wearing uniforms and cloaks. The four engage the Hidiacs, and while they do better than they did in their original fights, they're still new to this and decide to morph. Also have their problem with the costumes this time, particularly the fact that they have capes, but I've got to say, I actually really like them. It once again is a different sort of outfit that gives them their own unique feel. And as I've said, being a superhero fan and all, I really like capes. They're not so big as to get in the way of fighting, but long enough to give them kind of a regal look. The colors are balanced nicely with the General M look in the black lines that's also been a symbol of the team. Here it's integrated well with the outfits, not being in your face about it like some teams are with their symbols. What aren't quite as nice are the fight scenes, which have stopped even having explosion sounds and instead sound like photon torpedoes are firing. With the power of special effects, they defeat the Hidiacs, and Korag reappears to challenge them. Nick gets a vision of the others getting beaten up and changes his mind, riding in on his motorcycle and knocking Korag back in a damn impressive stunt. Utilizing magic, Nick blasts Korag away, and he magically gets his morpher. He morphs and promptly deals with some more Hidiacs. With the evil forces defeated, they all pledge their allegiance to Spider-Man, and Korag retreats. However, we make sure to get in a badass line walk. And we get the end of the episode with them using their awesome magical gifts to clean the store up. Overall, Broken Spell is a solid start to the season. It's paced well, the Rangers come off as pretty likable, and it serves as a good introduction to the concepts of the series. It does have its failings, primarily in how really stupid the I believe in magic thing is. I'm not against the idea of faith and belief, far from it, but if it's just believing in magic that allows you to have magical powers, then Claire should have better control over this crap. And again, Nick knew full well magic existed, yet he wasn't able to unlock his powers until the end. I've heard that in the Sentai it was courage, not belief, and that would have worked a lot better, but for what we got, I didn't mind it too much. I think my frustration truly comes from the kiddie way that magic is handled. Of course, Power Rangers is a kid show, but you can tell mature stories for children and not insult their intelligence. For example, there is a difference between believing in something and knowing something. For these Rangers, they have grown up in an environment of facts and science. They know that what their senses tell them is reality. Belief, on the other hand, is a concept meant for something that isn't provable. However, the magics on display here should mean that they accept magic as fact, not as a belief. That would have been more interesting, that it's not enough to know that magic exists, but rather you have to believe in the potential power of magic and in the faith that there's something greater at work than just magic as a provable fact. Again, the difference between knowing and believing, but that's never brought up. Simply that they must believe in magic. But hey, whatever. Point is, first 2 episodes are pretty good. Naturally, following 2 episodes about magic and mysticism about the Rangers, we get to see the Rangers flying around on jet jammers. Well, okay, they're more like flying motorcycles that were transformed from broomsticks and subsequently can transform into motorcycles. Udana's also teaching them spells as they're training instead of martial arts. They wonder why they don't get tons of gadgets and weapons.
The Xenotome holds the spell codes that can unlock magical powers beyond your imagination.
So what are we waiting for? Let's bust it open, load the codes, and get our booty.
It doesn't work that way, Vida. As you perform heroic deeds and grow as Rangers, the Xenotome will reveal the spell codes when the time is right.
Okay.
I should point out that one of the reasons why we have so many more explosions and special effects was because apparently Disney didn't like having a massive amount of physical contact between Rangers and monsters. Because, of course, even though it was just fine to do that for over 10 years, suddenly it's not okay anymore. But that's fine. The magic spells idea would be perfectly fine to get around that, except they very rarely do that. We also meet Phineas, who's apparently half troll and half goblin. So he's a reject of both Troll 1 and Troll 2. That's harsh. He also is yet another comic relief character. Because that's what this series needed, a mythical version of Piggy. However, he does give exposition to Nick about the master of the underworld that's awakening. We cut to the underworld, where we see the forces bowing down to their new master, which appears in a pool in front of them all, though all we can see is his eye. We also meet a second foot soldier, Styxoids, although they're hardly all that different from the Hideax, so I don't see the point of having a second type. The Rangers' primary weapon is this half-axe, half-sword thing that I really like, called a Magistaff, helping to build on the sword and sorcery motif of the team. Speaking of sword and sorcery, it seems like the villains have access to Galadriel's mystical pool, and Korag sees a possible future where the Red Ranger destroys him. We also learn that Nick is hiding something from the other Rangers concerning his birth. And it's really not that big a deal. The Centaur mode that Korag possesses is actually thanks to a mythical horse under his control named Catastros. The horse was wild and none could tame him until the final battle between good and evil, where the horse was pulled into the underworld. Korag also manages to steal the mystical energy that allows the Rangers' Zords to combine, which could be used to let Mordecon be free of the underworld, but he decides to keep it for himself. Necrolai, however, observed this and reports back to Mordecon, who instructs her to take out Korag for his betrayal. Her master plan is shooting a crossbow at him. Yeah, that'll have an effect on the giant robot version of him. Well, in actuality, it does get his attention. While the Rangers can't form their Megazord, they can form the Dragon Rider mode, and Nick leaps off to intercept Korag before he can retreat himself. It interrupts Korag's spell to return him to the underworld, sending him and Catastros to another dimension. And props to the production team on this one. I don't know if it's just a place in New Zealand that has plants like this, but the forest area in this other dimension, unlike ones we've seen previously on the show, actually has this purple and pink coloring to it. It's not a filter because Nick himself still looks like himself, but the area around him is a different color. It actually feels like another dimension and not just, say, Lord Zed's otherworld, aka a cave. It seems that Catastros was injured by the tiny arrow, magic or something, I don't know, and Nick decides to help heal it using his morpher. Korag goes to confront Mordecon, but the roar of their master tells them to knock it the hell off and get back to fighting the Rangers. Korag used the combining energy for one of his monsters, meaning that plot point became kind of wasted. Anyway, Nick has tamed Catastros and rides it out of the other dimension to destroy the monster in the new Centauros Phoenix Megazord, freeing the combined